Hi folks, thanks for joining us today. My name's Matt Crape. I'm a Senior Technical Product Marketer here at Veeam.
And my name is Landra Pierce, and I'm a part of Veeam's product strategy team.
We're thrilled that you're here today to join us. We want to take you down a journey of the Veeam data platform. Whether you're an existing customer who's been with us for years or brand new to Veeam, we hope that you walk away with a better understanding of what the Veeam data platform is and how it can actually help you. So why are we talking about this? At the end of the day, data is really the currency in today's world. It's not just your information, it's the lifeblood of your organization. It's what keeps your enterprise up and running. Whether it's a matter of database records for e-commerce sites, or maybe it's medical records, you need to ensure that data is safe and protected. You have to protect it like it really matters. So how do we actually achieve this within the Veeam data platform, and why should you care?
So Veeam has broken it down in 5 core pillars. So the first one is having a backup for your data, which is often targeted by ransomware, regardless of where it's stored. But what good is a backup if you don't have the ability to recover? Even with traditional approaches, 43% of data may be lost post-attack. And next, we need to focus on having data freedom, which allows you to move data when, where, and how you need it. To ensure, backups are secure, resilient to tampering, which is why data security is important to consider. And last point, implementing data intelligence, which will allow you to extract insight from the backup so that you can make a better decision moving forward. And in today's presentation, we're going to dive deeper into these pillars as well.
These 5 pillars are core to every product that Veeam puts out, and we're able to feed these directly into the Veeam data platform. So the Veeam data platform delivers lots of outcomes for your business today. So we start off with secure backup and recovery capabilities, and then we layer on top of that some advanced analytics and monitoring, as well as even some Gen AI that's part of that. And lastly, for when things do go bad, you need that resilient recovery, that orchestrated recovery, that customized recovery to get you out of that mess. We're able to protect all sorts of workloads, and we'll go down that journey throughout this presentation. But let's talk a little bit more about our secure foundation.
So in today's threat landscape, at the core of any strong cyber defense strategy is a reliable backup. But not just any backup, a mutable backup that can't be altered or deleted by ransomware or internal threats. Combine that with clean recovery options and true data resilience. And you're not just reacting to incidents, you're bouncing back instantly with confidence. Backups are your best line of defense, and when they're done right, they eliminate the fear of uncertainty from your recovery strategy. And that's what we offer, a secure foundation built on a single software-defined platform that covers your entire hybrid estate. And here's how we do it. First, we deliver unmatched data resilience, so your business stays protected whether your data lives on-prem, in the cloud, or somewhere in between. Second, we make sure your data remains immutable and safe across an entire life cycle, because data loss affects more than just finances, it impacts trust and operations. And then finally, we simplify compliance with automated policy-based backup retention, so you're always audit ready without the manual headache. And with this approach, you're not just surviving cyber attacks, you're thriving through them.
That's an excellent recap of this. But it's not just about secure foundation. You also need to have that cyber resilience. How are you actually able to bounce back from those attacks? How can we help you with that? We have a multitude of tools and capabilities within Veeam Data Platform that let you achieve these things. Whether it's the AI-powered malware scanning that we're able to do in line so we can detect those threats sooner and let you know when something bad is about to happen. We're also able to integrate with your existing infrastructure with a Veeam Instant API. Outside security tools can actually communicate with Veeam backup and replication and trigger a quick backup, for example, to let you know, hey, we found something. Let's actually start the process of triaging this with a quick backup so that we have a known point to work from. And lastly, you have to keep those backups safe with the ability to add strong controls to the control plane, whether it's multi-factor authentication, 4 eyes authorization, and so forth. Know that your data backups remain safe. So with these tools, yes, this will give you some great cyber resilience, but cyber resilience isn't all that you need. You need true enterprise resilience.
And with enterprise resilience, with our complete all in one data resilient platform, we help enterprises stay prepared and protected. Because for us, your data isn't just a priority, it's a commitment. Now let's break it down. We deliver confident recovery compliance by ensuring your SLAs are ready at all times. And with automated testing and built in documentation, compliance becomes a part of the process, not a scramble at audit time. And when cyber threats strike, remember, resilience is a team sport, and Veeam acts as your trusted advisor, guiding end to end ransomware response and recovery so you're never alone in the fight. Plus, with scalable orchestrated recovery, we tailor solutions to your business needs, no matter the size or complexity. And the best part, your recovery is clean every single time. And this is enterprise class resilience, not just protection, but proactive preparation that keeps your business running no matter what comes your way.
So what do you get when you put this all together? You get a very comprehensive suite of tools tailored to organizations of any size, whether you're a small SMB with critical markets that you're serving, or you're a large enterprise. Veeam Data Platform has a solution that fits your needs. We're able to deliver that secure foundation, deliver that cyber resilience that you need in today's world, and lastly, the enterprise resilience to keep your business running. Regardless of the size of your organization, Veeam is there to solve problems and help you get through these challenges. That's why Veeam is the #1 global market leader in data protection and continues to be. So we've talked a lot about what Veeam Data Platform is at a high level, but let's go a little bit deeper now and talk about the reasons why you need some of this data resilience. There's lots of challenges out there these days. In 2024, it is estimated that 150 zettabytes of data alone was created, and that's expected to double every year. Think about from your perspective. You need to maintain this data, you need to back it up, you need to make sure that it remains compliant. How do you handle this challenge? That introduces a lot of infrastructure complexity as well, which 92% of enterprises have claimed that, you know what, this is part of the problem that we're trying to solve by moving to a multi-cloud strategy. So now we have some on-premises workloads, now we've got cloud workloads. This adds a whole extra layer to things now. Now, when you couple this also with vendor lock-in, nobody wants to be locked into a single vendor. You need that ability to, whether it's get your data out, to move to best-of-breed technologies. And with hardware refresh cycles averaging every 3 years, this is a conversation that happens relatively frequently. Do you really want to be spending all that time figuring out what storage arrays will actually work with my backup storage, for example? And lastly, we can't ignore ransomware. Our recent ransomware trends report indicated that those customers who did wind up paying the ransom, out of that, 27% didn't actually get their data back. We are dealing with criminals after all, so it's not safe to assume that even if you pay the ransom, you'll get your data back.
Well, let's go over a problem. The problem that some customers are facing within their data infrastructure. Cyber attacks nowadays are very common. About 75% of organizations suffered at least one ransomware attack, and that's huge. And about 96% of them, of the cyber attacks, targeted backups. And about 68% of financial impact attributed to costs other than the ransomware payment. So how do we solve this? So this is where we have Coveware by Veeam that offers a proactive threat assessment. And what Coveware by Veeam technology includes or is included now in Veeam Data Platform. So Coveware by Veeam, the technology itself lives within Veeam Data Platform. And it's going to help protect and also help identify cyber threats before they impact your organization with an executable agent scanner.
So that's just one of the many proactive measures that we have. Let's take a look at some of the other options that we have here. So when you take this all together and you're able to roll it up into one package known as a Veeam Data Platform, you're able to do a lot of things, like shrink the window between the time a compromise happens to the time that it's detected. We're able to integrate with your existing security tools as well as bring new tool sets into your infrastructure. We're able to offer in-depth monitoring and data observability with Gen AI insights to help you identify those risks, ask those questions to the Gen AI, and get these insights that you may not have seen before. And lastly, we're also proactively looking for and identifying malicious toolkits and threats. So what does this all actually look like? Well, let's take a look at what the resilience for your data's lifecycle looks like. So before we even take a backup, we have tools that we could use. For example, the Veeam Instant API. You may have a third-party security tool that is able to reach out and notify Veeam about a threat that's been detected. We've got the Security and Compliance Analyzer built right into the Veeam data platform. This lets you ensure that you're aligning to best practices so that you can remove that doubt from your mind. And lastly, we already talked a little bit about Recon Scanner, the ability to proactively look for threats before an attack even starts. But we also have capabilities from during the backup that we could leverage.
So during the backup, we want to ensure that we're leveraging the inline malware detection that's captured during the backup. Next, we're looking for any suspicious file activity. And then you have immutability, which is going to ensure that the backups cannot be tampered with. Next, we have the IOC tool scanner, which is identifying hacker tools.
And now that's all fine and dandy, but we also have to start thinking about recovery. How can we ensure that we can perform a safe, scalable recovery without reintroducing the threat? We have lots of options available here, whether it's a secure restore that leverages tools like the Veeam Threat Hunter or Yara scanning, going all the way up to orchestrated recovery with Veeam Recovery Orchestrator and clean rooms. We have a solution for all of this. And throughout all of this, we have the Veeam Threat Center. At any point in time, this could be your one-stop for a single pane of glass overview of what your data protection status is for your entire environment. Now, we've talked a lot about all these tools that are available within the Veeam Data Platform. We've also got the Veeam CyberSecure service. This is another way that many customers find themselves adding that extra layer of protection. So if something does go wrong, they're able to leverage Veeam's knowledge base, Veeam's talent, Veeam's expertise to walk them through recovery. This will include things like having access to our ransomware SWAT team so that if something does go wrong, you know that you're getting the best response right out of the gate.
And also during a ransomware attack, you get 24/7, 365 expert codeware incident response with a 15-minute response SLA.
And if worse does come to worse, just know that Veeam has a ransomware recovery warranty available for up to $5 million to help you through any rough patches. So that's enough talk about all this. Why don't we jump into the lab and actually show you some of these capabilities? So we talked briefly about some of the capabilities within Veeam Data Platform as far as detecting threats throughout your data's lifecycle. Let's start and take a look at some of those. First off, we'll take a look at our malware detection capabilities. The inline malware detection leverages AI and machine learning to actually look for signs of encryption at the time of backup. What this will allow you to do is shorten the window from the time that a ransomware attack might start to the time that you actually detect it. Enabling it is as easy as checking a box, and because no two environments are the same, you could adjust the sensitivity just to exactly what you need it for. Additionally, we're able to perform a lot of detection based on file system analysis. So if, for example, we see a large number of suspicious files show up all of a sudden, or on the flip side, maybe there's been a big deletion of files, we can actually flag that and notify you of those changes. Right alongside that, we've also got the ability to look for indicators of compromise and known hacker tools. So you'll see this as a very extensive list that does get updated somewhat regularly. And each of these is aligned to something within the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now, what this means is if you've got an IT security professionals team that works alongside you, they're able to take this information, align it to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is a standardized framework, and actually help them figure out what are the next steps after this tool is found. Next up, we have signature detection. So these are antivirus engines, generally speaking, that work off of known signatures for malicious threats. The Veeam Threat Hunter is integrated right into the Veeam Data Platform, and this provides fantastic performance, significantly faster than anything that's third-party or added in. That being said, you can absolutely still bring your own antivirus if you choose. We work with many vendors right out of the box. The last thing I want to highlight on this tab here is this Instant API. This is an API that any vendor out there can look to leverage. And one of the really great benefits about it is if a threat is detected, they can actually trigger a quick backup of an infected VM, for example. This will give you a quick point-in-time copy of what was going on and whether it's used for file level recovery or possibly just for a forensic investigation. It's always great to have that quick action. Landra, why don't you take us through some of the repository options that we have?
So now that we've covered how to scan and detect suspicious activity happening within the backup, now let's talk about how we can leverage immutability. So with Veeam, you have many different options that you can leverage to make your backups immutable, starting with the hardened Linux repository. Next, we also can leverage object-based storage, which we work with many S3 compatible object storage vendors, including the Veeam Data Cloud Vault, that also can come standard as immutable.
One of the great things about Veeam Data Cloud Vault is it also gives you predictable pricing. So when it comes to using cloud and object storage for your backups, there's always questions around, hey, how much will this cost? Especially when you start looking at API calls and so forth and so forth. So if you're looking for a predictable pricing model, be sure to take a look at Veeam Data Cloud Vault. But that's not all that we want to look at here. Lastly, we've got the security and compliance checklist. This is a great way to go through and make sure that you're following best practices. This is something you could schedule to run on its own, so you don't need to remember to go in there and check each and every time. And similarly, because these checks are performed in real time, you can actually go in here, change a setting, and run it again to make sure that you're meeting the best practices. But let's take a look at what else we have available within the Veeam Data Platform. We also have the malware detection built right into Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. Where this is useful is when you need to perform large-scale recoveries. Whether it's site-wide recovery, whether it's responding to a ransomware attack, does not matter. By default, we're actually able to leverage the knowledge that we have from Veeam backup and replication and look at things like that malware flag that we've already talked about. We could say, take a look at the last 10 restore points right off the hop. And if there is no clean recovery point found, we have some options. We can restore the VMs without connecting them to the network, or we can cancel the restore. But for situations where we want to dive even deeper, we've got some additional options. We could still perform a virus scan as part of this recovery at scale, and we can also leverage some Yara rules. So if we know specifically what sort of ransomware we were hit with, we can actually go through here and choose a specific rule and make sure that's run as part of the recovery process, ensuring a clean recovery. Now, this is all fine. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about keeping your data safe. But what can you do day to day? That's where the Veeam Threat Center comes in. It takes a lot of this information and rolls it up holistically to give you this one-stop view to understand what is your compliance, what is at risk, what should I be looking at. This is updated regularly. It's fed from all the other parts of the Veeam Data Platform, and it really is designed to be that one-stop shop.
And to add to that as well, you also can produce reports around the security compliance checklist, as well as if your backups are immutable and what's the status.
Security is a team sport, and when it comes to your data, you have to make sure that you're leveraging all the tools available and that you can understand how each and every one works to make sure that your data remains completely safe. Let's start with hypervisor flexibility. It's no secret that customers today want to be able to have that flexibility to move hypervisors. Maybe it's a planned migration, maybe it's something that's just come up unbeknownst to them. Either way, they need that ability to move their data. And going forward, how do you sort of handle this enterprise evolution? There's this migrate and modernize initiative that many enterprises are undertaking right now. The move to the cloud, it's not just a lift and shift. Sometimes it's a matter of let's get our data up there and then we'll refactor it once we get there. And all of this requires some form of data portability. You need to make sure that you're not locked into specific vendors, whether it's hardware, whether it's your backup software. You need to be able to take this data and effectively move it to a new platform, to a new on-premises data center, to wherever you need to move it to. And for many organizations, there's a big demand for a cloud-first approach. How can you actually accelerate your cloud adoption?
How does Veeam stand out from other vendors when it comes to data portability? Well, first, we have the broadest storage support, avoiding vendor lock-in, and then also allowing you to migrate and modernize your applications and your infrastructure. And that way you can recover from anywhere and to anywhere as well, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud. And we support many hypervisors. And then how do you modernize your protection for modern workloads as well?
So we've talked a lot about what we can do as far as data portability. Why don't we actually start to show you how we can actually do this?
If we go through a restore process with Veeam, you have the option to leverage number of different options. So starting with the VMware VM backup, if I go to the very first option, we have instant VM recovery. Now, not only can I instantly recover it back into the same environment, our hypervisor, which is VMware, but I also can leverage Microsoft Hyper-V, or I can restore it directly into or as a Nutanix AHV VM. Now, if I don't need to instantly recover it, I do also have the ability to restore the entire VM. Now, when I restore the entire VM, I'll select the virtual machine. It gives me a number of options, whether I'm restoring it to the original location, restoring it to a new location, applying different settings, or doing a stage restore. But the most important part is how are we securing the restore, scanning the backup before we're restoring it for any presence of malware. So before restoring, we can leverage the secure restore, and you have two different options. We can leverage the Veeam Threat Hunter to find the available clean restore point, or you can use some predefined Yara rules to also scan for any sort of threat actors within the restore points. Now, depending on if malware was found, you have the ability to either proceed with the recovery, but it does disconnect it from the network, or you can completely abolish the recovery if we do detect any malware. Another option for data portability is also, especially if you have a hybrid deployment, if we're protecting workloads in the cloud, let's say you have an EC2 instance running in the cloud, or you're leveraging Azure cloud instances and you're protecting them with Veeam Backup for AWS or Veeam Backup for Azure, or even backup for GCP. Once we create an image level backup, those backups will be stored within that cloud native environment. So next, under backup infrastructure, you'll have this option to add an external repository where those image level backups live. And by adding them into Veeam Backup and Replication, we now have visibility of your cloud environment. So that way, especially if you have a hybrid environment where you're managing local VMs as well as cloud native VMs, this is a way to integrate the two. So once the external repositories have been added, you can head next to the Home tab, and you'll be able to visibly see all of your backups under external repository. You can even perform restores directly from Veeam Backup and Replication, giving you the option to instantly recover, let's say, an EC2 instance into a VMware VM. Or you could also restore an individual guest file or folder from that VM. Now, you do have the ability to not only restore it back to the native cloud environment, but let's say we're taking the EC2 instance and we want to restore it directly as an Azure instance or right into Google Cloud environments as well. So you do have that portability. Now, following just the restore capabilities, if you want to take an external copy and move it out of S3, let's say you want to put it in another cloud vendor or another S3 compatible object storage option, or you want to source it just to another repository, you can achieve that as well by leveraging and creating a backup copy job. So if I go up to backup copy job, first thing you want to give it is a name and description. Next, you'll have the option to select whether or not you're going to immediately make a copy once the primary backup that's taken in the cloud has already been captured, or you can make periodic copies where you can set up a more defined schedule. Next, under objects, we're going to select from the backup the EC2 instance we want to make a copy of. So once we already have that backup in place, we're going to make a copy of it. Next, we're going to have the ability to select our target repository, whether we're pushing it to another object storage-based storage, or we can also keep a local copy of that backup as well. Now, once that's selected, you do also have the ability to specify the retention policy, which can be in the amount of days or restore points that you want to specify. And if you also want to apply GFS retention, there is a checkbox below that where you can configure your grandfather, father, son backup, which ultimately consists of specifying if you want to keep weekly fulls additional to that, monthly, and even yearly full backups. Now, the very last step, of course, because I did select periodic copies, you now have the ability and flexibility to define how often you want to capture the backup copy job, whether it's daily at a certain time, or maybe this backup copy only runs once a month at a specific time, or you could even do periodic backups of it as well. Now, instant recovery is great if you need to have a quick way to get a VM up and running without fully rehydrating that VM. But let's say we want to go ahead and do a full entire VM restore. Once we select the virtual machine, and then we select the restore mode, whether we're restoring it to the original location or to a new location or a new host, be sure to also securely restore that VM by running a malware scan before we restore. Now, you can do that two ways. You can either scan the restore points using the Veeam Threat Hunter, or you can use a predefined YARA rule and have that run specifically before you restore the VM. Now, once that scan has been captured, if we do find malware presence, you have two different options where we can either proceed with the recovery but disable the network, or we can completely stop the recovery process if malware is found. Now, another thing to keep in mind outside of that, you also can leverage the ability to restore or convert it into a cloud environment, especially if you have a hybrid deployment. So maybe you don't have another hypervisor on-prem, but let's say you want to migrate or push that data to the cloud. You have the ability to restore it as an Amazon EC2 instance, Microsoft Azure instance, or even leveraging Google. Now, talking about hybrid cloud deployments, another thing is Veeam has native backup products that can protect different cloud-based workloads, whether it's running in AWS, whether it's running in Azure, or even Google. With that being said, with our cloud-native products, we're able to create image-level backups of the instances and databases. And where those are going to be stored is within that cloud-native bucket. So if it's an AWS EC2 instance that we're creating an image-level backup of, we're going to store that in an S3 object-based storage within AWS. In order to integrate it with Veeam Backup and Replication, so that you can have a seamless way of managing not only your on-prem VMs, but you can also manage your cloud-based workloads. We're going to add it under external repositories so we have access to that specific bucket and we'll have access to all of those backups. So once that's in place, if we head over to the Home tab, right under Backups, if we go directly to External Repositories, we now can have access to those EC2 instance backups, let's say, or Azure instance, as well as you can see here with certain databases like SQL. But I'm going to take this Veeam backup for AWS EC2 instance, and when I right-click it, the first thing that we see is that I can instantly recover it. And this gives me the ability to instantly recover it to VMware. So that way I'm able to maintain that data portability, because primarily once it's in the cloud, it's usually kept and locked into the cloud. It makes it hard for you to be able to move and port that data back on-prem. Now, it's easier to do it vice versa, but with Veeam, you can leverage instant recovery so that you can convert that EC2 instance back on-prem. But not only that, you do have the ability to restore it back into Amazon, or you can restore it to another cloud vendor. You can restore it directly as an Azure instance or even into Google. Now, the next thing is, once we have access to those backups, we can restore them to a number of different ways, but we also have the ability to create copies of those backups so that we can also store additional copies outside of the native cloud platform. So when we go into a backup copy job, if we're starting off new, we're going to give it a name and description. Next, you have the ability to make an immediate copy, but what I would recommend is do a periodic copy so that way you can define its own set schedule for this to run. Following that, under Objects, we're going to select from the backup the instance that we want to make a copy of. So let's take this EC2 instance first. Well, once we select that we want to make a copy of this backup, under Target, we now have the ability to select what repository we want to send this to initially. So again, if I have this in an Amazon S3 bucket and I also have Azure Blob, and I want to also create an additional copy and store it in Blob, you now have that ability. And then you'll follow right below that with the retention policy settings. You can also configure your own custom GFS retention, which when you select configure, all that's referring to is leaving additional weekly fulls, monthly fulls, or even yearly full backups behind. And once that's defined, next, because we selected periodic copies, we can now run this job automatically and select a predefined schedule here where we can run it daily, monthly at a specific time, or even periodically through the day. But ultimately, this is showing you how not only do we have data portability for our on-prem workloads, but also that cloud integration as well.
As you can see, with just a few clicks, Veeam gives you the portability to not only move your workloads to new locations, but also to continue protecting those workloads in the new location. Data portability is paramount in today's world, and it's something that every enterprise needs to strive for. So we've talked a lot about what Veeam Data Platform can do, but there's still so much more. Veeam Data Platform is so much more. We've talked about the building blocks that every enterprise needs, whether it's backup and recovery, monitoring and analytics, or that key recovery orchestration. But because Veeam Data Platform leverages all these native APIs, we can branch out into so many other workloads as well. First off, we've got cloud. We're able to protect workloads in all the major public clouds, as well as any sort of private clouds that you might be running, whether it's Kubernetes-based or otherwise. Veeam's hypervisor support is legendary. We keep adding more and more hypervisors, and as part of that, we ensure that you're able to move your data across those hypervisors, as well as to other platforms like cloud. Physical, unstructured data is still alive and well in enterprises across the globe. Whether it's backing up NAS unstructured data or object storage, we're able to help you out there. Additionally, enterprise apps, whether it's databases, whether it's offerings such as Intra-ID, we're able to give you a single comprehensive platform to back all of these up. And as part of the Veeam portfolio, we're also able to protect Microsoft 365 workloads as well as Salesforce workloads. So let's talk a little bit more about some of these things that we can protect. It's no secret that enterprises are adopting cloud more and more. And why is that? Well, because it allows them to advance their own technologies at their own pace and leverage best of breed. As part of that, customers need to ensure that they can back up those workloads. Veeam offers a cohesive protection suite of tools for the major public clouds, as well as giving you the ability to move your on-premises workloads to the clouds. All of this with more capabilities than what are available natively in cloud protection today.
Now, when it comes to giving you a virtualized experience, Veeam supports a number of different hypervisors, whether that be VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox, Nutanix AHV. It's endless. But Veeam Data Platform enables you to choose what platform you want to leverage, and also if you're in need of migrating to different hypervisors as well.
Let's not forget physical data protection, all those bare metal workloads out there. We're able to protect these with Windows, whether it's Linux, whether it's NAS or object storage, whether it's clustered or standalone. We can protect these workloads, whether it's through specialized agents or just as NAS file shares, for example. This capability gives you a centralized way to manage your protection across your entire data center. And let's not forget databases. They are the lifeblood of many organizations out there. Veeam Data Platform is able to offer native tools that work with existing database vendors out there so that you know your data is being protected. Whether you need to perform a full recovery, an instant recovery, or some sort of point-in-time recovery, Veeam Data Platform is there to help you out.
So Veeam also offers protection for enterprise applications such as Intra-ID, SharePoint, OneDrive, allowing you to recover a single file or maybe a SharePoint site using our Veeam Explorers, which is going to allow you to have a straightforward way of recovering.
As you can see, we have an expansive list of workloads that we can protect today. But let's dive into the lab and actually show you some of this in action. We've already covered some of the recovery options available within Veeam Data Platform. We've talked about cloud, we've talked about instant VM recovery, but let's go a little bit deeper into the workloads that we actually protect. So if we look at adding servers here, you'll see we have a wealth of options. Let's take a look at some of the cloud native backup appliances that we have. So we've got capabilities for AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, all managed from this one single platform. Additionally, let's take a look at some of the virtualization platforms, and this is an ever-growing list here. We've got some of the more common hypervisors that you see out there, support for VMware and Hyper-V right off the hop. But we also have support for other hypervisors like AHV, Proxmox, Red Hat, Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, and this list is ever growing. Make sure you stay on the lookout because we're always adding new hypervisors. But that's enough about virtual. Let's talk a little bit about physical, right? What can we do there? There's lots that we can actually do. When you leverage the power of protection groups within Veeam, you're able to actually push out these agents to protect these workloads. And we have all sorts of options here. You could do them individually, you can leverage Active Directory, you can upload lists, you can even pre-deploy the agents. So if you find yourself working with branch offices, remote offices, you can actually have them pre-deployed and connect back. And let's not lose sight of the fact that we can do cloud machines, as well as application-based deployments. So in this case, let's take a quick walk through here and you'll see, for example, if we want to protect MongoDB, it's easy enough to protect those replica sets right from the interface here. So let's see what it looks like to actually protect some workloads. Let's leverage the Active Directory option here. So we create a new protection group, add some machines. I know, for example, I've got some here. We could say exclude this if it's a VM, exclude it if the computer's been offline for 30 days. So this gives you a lot of flexibility to make sure that you're actually not backing up things that you shouldn't be backing up. Provide some credentials to make sure that you can actually connect to these machines. Now this is where it gets interesting. You've got some options here. We can select a distribution server. That's a little bit too in the weeds for this discussion. But some other options, like yes, we want to make sure that we install the backup agent. If it's a Windows machine, we can actually leverage change block tracking, meaning that you get some very storage efficient and fast backups. What's also interesting is, hey, if these machines are actually running some applications, we could configure it for that. So if you find yourself trying to protect Oracle RMAN, SAP HANA, or SAP on Oracle, these are all ways that you can actually deploy this backup plugin in order to protect those workloads. And lastly, we could do some administrative tasks, such as making sure that the backup agent is always up to date, as well as perform any reboots as necessary. One last thing I'd like to show here is actually our backup for Entra ID as well. Now, a lot of customers may be using Entra ID today and may not even realize it. If you're an M365 customer, you absolutely are, but you don't have to just be an M365 customer to be leveraging Entra ID. It's still extremely important to ensure that you actually keep this backed up. Creating a backup job for Entra ID is just as simple as many Veeam users are used to. Very wizard driven, and if we go through here, I'll actually show you how quick it is. So you give it a name, you define the tenant, what your retention policy is, and what schedule you want to run. What this does is it'll create a backup of your Entra ID for you and capture any of those metadata changes. But let's take a look at what a restore actually looks like. In this case, I'm actually looking to recover the audit logs. So you'll see it's very easy to figure out where the log's from, what's changed, sizes, and so forth. Why would you want to do this? Well, for example, in this case, there's actually a large log. So that tells me there were lots of things that changed. So if I find myself needing to perform some investigative work, like say there was a compromise, I can actually go through here and look at my logs. Microsoft does not allow you to keep your logs long-term, which typically has required you sending them off to a third-party syslog server, for example, which will end up costing additional money. So being able to actually store these logs on premises for relatively cheap, this is a huge win for a lot of customers when it comes to security.
So Veeam also covers enterprise applications, whether it's Entra ID, SharePoint, OneDrive, just to name a few. And with that protection, we offer the ability to recover it granularly using our Veeam Explorers. It's pretty straightforward.
The great thing about all these expansive workloads that we do protect is you don't need to learn these new skill sets in order to perform the recovery. In fact, let's show you how some of these work.
Under the Inventory tab, as you can see, we can protect unstructured data. Now, if I add a data source, it gives me a number of different options. Not only can we protect SMB or NFS shares, or you can also add a managed Windows or a Linux server, but we can also protect object-based storage, where not only can we protect Amazon S3, but we also can protect Microsoft Azure Blob and any other S3 compatible object storage options you want to protect as well. Now, once those are added to the inventory, we're next going to go ahead and create a job for them. So starting off on the top left under backup job, you're going to see listed object storage backup as well as file share backup. With the file share backup, I'm going to take a moment to edit one that I have here. As we go through and edit a NAS file share backup, the first thing we're going to specify is give it a good name and description. Next, under Objects, we're going to select what files or folders we want to protect by going up to the top right and hitting Add. Now you can browse through the share and select a specific file or folder that you want to protect. Once that's selected, we're going to go next and select where we want to land the initial backup. So right under Backup Repository, you're going to see a list of different options. Now you can send this backup directly to the cloud, or you can even keep a local copy. Now, underneath that, you're also going to be able to define the retention policy, which you can express in the amount of days that you want to keep the backup or the amount of months. Now, following that, you do also have the option, once the backup ages out, you can select to archive those files to another location. But let's not forget, outside of being able to archive it, we also want to ensure that this isn't the only source that we're sending our data to. We also want to create an exact copy and have a secondary copy of the backup. So down here at the bottom under backup repositories, you can also configure a secondary destination, which is going to create an exact copy of the backup, storing it in another location. So once I get to secondary target, on the top right, I'm going to select add, and it's going to give me a list of options as well. Maybe the primary backup is going to first target a local hardened Linux repository. And then for our secondary target, we may want to push this backup directly to the cloud. So you have those options for the data portability. Now, once that's defined, the very last step is defining the schedule and however often needed to run the job. Now, once we have the backup in place, what all can we restore? Now let's take a look at our backups on file. So if I go to the Backups tab here and go directly to NAS Backup, I'm going to drop that arrow down to take a look at all the shares that I backed up. And by simply right-clicking on the share, I have the ability to instantly recover that file share. Once I ensure that the right file share has been selected, next is the mount server selection. Now, by default, Veeam's going to make an automatic selection to use whatever mount server is associated with the backup repository where we're restoring from, or you also can put in a manual selection. But beyond that, you also have the ability to restore the entire share, or you can roll it back to a specific point in time, or you can even use our explorers and individually restore a specific file or folder from the backup as well.
Veeam Data Platform offers one cohesive solution for your enterprise. Whether it's a secure foundation, the advanced monitoring and analytics, or the orchestrated recovery at scale that you're looking for, we're able to help you get through these tough times as well as ensure that your data remains safe. We're constantly adding new workloads that we support, and it's an expansive environment that is always growing.
And that is why Veeam is the #1 global leader in data resilience. For more information, visit us at veeam.com today.